So a special welcome to our 4 incredible guests and a special welcome to all our attendees. We are using this amazing feature called webinars. We are gonna disable now the chat, but please feel free to ask us any question via the question and answer session. In case you have any doubt, we are here for you. And welcome to the second session of our webinar series. And it's a great honor to introduce you our District 71 Director, Gerard Mannix. Gerard, the stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed, Gaia. Welcome and a very, very warm welcome from District 71 to our Rotary Toastmaster Alliance panel discussion today. This is indeed another progression on the road of our alliance with Rotary. For my introduction today, I felt a little bit nostalgic. What great people we had as forefathers, such as Paul Harris, who founded Rotary 115 years ago with a motto, service above self. Then we had Ralph Smedley, 96 years ago, who introduced the mission of Toastmasters to empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. Fellow Toastmasters and Rotarians, it is a great opportunity that we come together and form this alliance. My recommendation is that we reach out locally to our grassroots to have shared meetings together, especially as it is convenient at this correct time and place at the moment online, so that we can establish a relationship, because there is something that both organizations share. We are both looking after the individual and we care for them. Like service above self, communication, leadership, what noble qualities these gentlemen thought about. Let's think about the future. We have made great ground roads already in District 71 with regard to the alliance of Toastmasters and Rotary. But let's not this journey start in small ways. We are delighted to have a great panel this evening to address us, and there will be a marvelous discussion. So I would like to introduce you to our district publicity manager, Elizabeth Jordan. Elizabeth, I hand over the introduction of the meeting to you, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. District Director. It's a pure honor for me to welcome today 4 very distinguished guests and have the honor to introduce you. I'm going to introduce each panelist in the order, alphabetical order of their surname, and I will do the introduction just before you speak. Our 4 panelists are Terry Baird, Ted Corcoran, Violet Cuffy, and David Jones. So I will start with Terry Baird. Terry has been a Rotarian since 1993 and a member of Toastmasters since 2001. He's served as he's been a successful businessman. He's done a stint in the military. He's served on countless board of directors. And many of you will have seen Terry on the 29th of August when he was on a panel discussion at the International Convention. I was lucky to visit Terry's club in Portland, the Portland Toastmasters Rotary Club. And I was absolutely entranced by their title because they call themselves the greatest Rotary club in the universe. They are not shy. I'm delighted that we've been able to have Terry with us here today, and it's my pleasure now to invite him to tell us about his unique Toastmaster and Rotary journey. Over to you, Terry.
Elizabeth, thank you, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today, to be a part of this great movement Rotary, and Toastmaster Alliance, helping people to find their voices through this alliance. Most people we have heard would rather die than give a speech. Public speaking for most people is the #1 fear. For 49 years, I had a fear of public speaking. It was so bad, I would break out in a sweat when I was called upon to speak. I would leave the room. I would find excuses to ask other people to stand up to speak for me. Anything to avoid having to speak in public. A couple of bad experiences in my life developed this fear, but I made it my goal to overcome it. I have 2 sons, and I knew that if I didn't overcome my fear of public speaking, glossophobia, they would inherit glossophobia as well. Many years ago at age 50, I was introduced to Toastmasters by a good friend. In fact, this good friend is my Rotary sponsor, Richard Lazaire. Richard planted the seed not only for me to join Rotary, but years later to join Toastmasters. As a Rotary member, I've committed to our motto at Rotary, service above self, for 25 years. Now I believe one of the best acts of service that we can do is to help other people to find their voices. 5 years ago, a group of Rotary members and I started a club to do just that, to help other people to overcome the fear of public speaking. We wanted to create a safe harbor where people could improve their speaking skills in the spirit of friendship and fellowship. As a charter member, I was privileged to give the first speech, which established this value as the cornerstone of our club. Our Rotary Toastmaster Club has over 200 members, and our Toastmaster Club has a little bit more than 40 members. While most of the Toastmaster members are also members of our Rotary Club, we are also open to non-Rotarians. Those who are in both clubs find added value in Rotary and Toastmasters. In Toastmasters, we learn how to feel comfortable in front of an audience sharing knowledge, experience, and values. This is not only fun for the audience, but it's healing and even cleansing for us to share our stories. While it can be initially hard to open up and be vulnerable in front of others, and as we do, it helps us to develop the courage and understand and how to relate to each other to create a better world. When we are members of an audience listening to others speak, we also benefit. We sometimes identify with the way the speaker feels or the thoughts they've shared, producing empathy, trust, and a sense of community. These are pathways to peace and connection. And as we learn and develop our speaking skills, this benefits all areas of life, helping to restore an art that has been lost in this age of communicating online. Toastmasters can benefit a Rotary Club in a number of ways. People who speak well recognize other people who speak well, and this enhances the selection of our speakers at our weekly Rotary meetings. It also enhances our leadership skills. We have had people who have joined our Toastmaster group so they can become better at leaders in different groups and committees and boards on which they serve. We also teach people how to tell their stories, to share the Rotary stories of the good work that we do, service above self. We can introduce people to Rotary through our Toastmaster Club, our Rotary Toastmaster Club. And now today, we have many non-Rotarians who have joined our Toastmaster Club who then become Rotarians. We started our Toastmaster Club to help and to grow and develop people's voices as well as our own, and our leadership skills have been noticed by many. On a huge benefit is getting to know people on a deeper level. The experiences that people have shared in our Toastmaster meetings have built deeper and longer lasting relationships beyond our wildest dreams. There are many charter members today who are great friends, and without them, I couldn't be here today. And I would like to acknowledge Claudia Porter, Dick Wingard, Mike Sandoval, Melissa Shikara, Jerry Elliott, and Doug Mashowski. There is a sense of community and connection that goes beyond anything you can get just by sitting at a table at a Rotary luncheon. And it brings tears to my eyes to be part of this great community, the combination of Rotary and Toastmasters. And a special shout out to Gary Schmidt, who has supported this movement, the Alliance, the Toastmaster and Rotary Alliance, so it goes to the next level. As we build our communication leadership skills, we become better equipped to tackle the world's problems. As we develop our speaking skills, we are developing the skeleton key to open many doors. If you have any questions about Toastmasters and or Rotary, please feel free to reach out to me.
Okay. It's my pleasure now to introduce our second speaker, who does not need much of an introduction because his reputation precedes him. Ted Corcoran joined Fingal Toastmasters in 1985. In 2003 to 2004, he was elected as the international president of Toastmasters and has the distinction of being the only European in its 95 years history of holding that august position. Ted joined Rotary in 1991 and has served as president in 2001-2002. We know Ted not only as a great leader and a great communicator, but as a great entertainer. And many of us joined you, Ted, a few weeks ago in your legendary sing-along at the convention 2 weeks ago. As I said, I can't promise you won't sing to us. We'd be happy to join you. But right now, I would like to invite you to share your unique journey as a Toastmaster and as a Rotarian. So over to you, Ted.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. The word serendipity and the phrase serendipitous events aren't heard very often in normal speech, yet such events can have a profound effect on our lives. The Oxford Dictionary describes the phrase a fortunate stroke of serendipity as the occurrence and development of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way. My membership of Toastmasters and of Rotary was directly caused by two separate serendipitous events. Today, I'm going to tell you about these events that led to my membership. I will also talk about the synergies I believe we share, and then I will give some practical examples of working together. 30 years ago, there was a best railway station competition organized between Welsh stations and Irish stations. And my boss was sent over to Holyhead on the ferry to help organize it. He got violently sick on the way over, and he got violently sick on the way back, and he went to the boss and he said, please find somebody else. And that was me. The Dublin Rotary Club was involved in the judging, and I spent several days around the country with them, and at the end, they invited me to join the Rotary Club, which I did. As for Toastmasters, on my way home from work one evening, I stopped at the security man, and in a conversation, he said, I have the second evening paper here, would you like to have it? And in the paper was a letter from somebody I knew, advertising the fact that a new Toastmasters club was started called Fingal Toastmasters. I went along as a non-Toastmaster, and I left the meeting as the club president. Instant promotion. Now, our synergies. The Rotary Action Plan formally states, and I'm going to read it for you, together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting changes across the globe in our communities and in ourselves. While the Toastmasters mission states, we empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. More simply, when asked what Rotarians do, the short answer is that we do good in the world. When Toastmasters are asked what they do, we say we help people gain confidence and develop their communication and leadership skills. As Terry has just mentioned, fear of speaking in public or speech anxiety is one of the biggest fears people have. But helping people overcome this fear is also doing good in the world, isn't it? Because with these newly developed communication and leadership skills, people can go out into the big, wide world and begin to change it for the better, little by little. Every person in their own fashion. And they can do so not only in charitable organizations, but also in many other ways, in their families, their communities, their workplaces, etc. With a Rotary combined membership of 1.2 million in 37,000 clubs, combined with Toastmasters of almost 400,000 members in 16,000 clubs, this adds up to a very significant number of people who are already doing good in the world. Moving now to some practical examples of working together for the common good, I believe this must begin at club level so that each side gets acquainted with each other and learn more about their activities. Here are some personal examples. My club, the Rotary Club Dublin, was founded on February the 22nd, 1911, making it the first club founded outside North America. While the Dublin Toastmasters Club was chartered in 1958, making it the oldest club in Ireland. So last February, my Rotary Club president invited the president of the Toastmasters Club to attend our annual President's Dinner. Well, what a great idea to celebrate together and easy to replicate for other clubs of either persuasion. Both Toastmasters and Rotary run youth leadership courses. They differ in content, of course, but the idea is the same. As education of any age group in any form is a positive thing. Toastmasters and Rotarians could usefully combine their resources to service these young people. I, wearing my Toastmasters hat, was invited last year by the Belfast Rotary Club to deliver a communication model to some 30 or so RILA Award winners from all across Europe. RILA stands for Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. Earlier this year then, the Belfast Toastmasters Club, this time, invited me to present a similar communications module to its members and invited local Rotary members to attend as guests. Two more examples of working together for mutual benefit. To summarize then, it was truly serendipitous how I came to join both my Toastmasters and Rotary clubs. You now know that doing good in the world is what we do well in both organizations, and I've demonstrated how connecting at club level is a great place to start. It is clear that the alliance between Toastmasters and Rotary leverages the strengths of both organizations for the personal and professional growth of all members. Finally, I have a combined 64 years of service in both organizations and have never regretted 1 minute of it. These words of President Roosevelt have always impressed me when he is quoted as saying, "Do what you can with what you have, where you are," as have the words of Mother Teresa, which reflect so well the work of both organizations. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ted. We now move to our third speaker, who is Violet Cuffy. And Violet began her leadership journey as a member of Rotaract. So she started young, because that's the youth wing of Rotary. And she's obviously graduated to becoming a Rotarian. She joined Toastmasters in 2014 and has held several roles within the organization. And last year, as area director, she was very proud to have led a President's Distinguished Club and a President's Distinguished Area. She has recently chartered a new club, International Orators, and has spearheaded a Rotary Toastmasters Alliance activity called Making Connections. It's a roundtable program, and she'll tell us a lot more about it. Let's welcome Violet Cuffy to give her unique perspective on the Rotary Toastmasters Alliance. Over to you, Violet.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. My journey as a leader, as I often boast, began in the Rotary Club. And my formative years have really been as a result of the years I spent growing, being nurtured as a young teenager, learning to serve the less fortunate in my community as a Rotaractor. The Rotaract movement is one of the junior organizations of Rotary. And in our club, our signature projects, which I would like to share with you, I hope as I share my journey, will enlighten you on some of the activities that you may partake in a collaboration with Rotary. In the youth movement, the Rotaract Club, our signature projects were an annual children's Christmas party. We were in charge of the annual Carnival Princess Show, adoption of elderlies in our community, feeding, street feeding, tree plantings, painting of schools, donations to the less fortunate, and personal professional development sessions. So in a very tender age, I was involved in those activities, serving my community and really developing myself as a leader under the Rotaract movement. And this picture here just symbolizes the work that we do in the Rotaract movement.
Apologies, Violet, are you sharing your screen?
Yes.
Okay, apologies, we cannot see it. I thought you meant, could we see your video?
No, I said, oh, sorry.
That was my apology. We cannot see the screen. We can now, thank you. Do you want to go back? Because we missed everything.
Okay, I will. Sorry about that. So this is just a slide which you have more or less presented my background, being a Rotaractor and the host of the Making Connections show, which is a newly established alliance on the program between our both international organizations. And I was just talking about my formation year as a leader, as a Rotaractor in the Rotaract Club of Roseau in the Caribbean, which was established in 1985, long ago. I mentioned some of the signature projects that the youth of the Rotary Club engage in, which I would like to share because I'm often asked, what can we do as Toastmasters in this whole Alliance project? And I know that quite a few Toastmasters are interested in doing interesting HPL projects. So getting involved with either Rotary or Rotaract is a good platform for finding outside of the box HPL projects to support. And in my personal journey, some of the work that we dealt with as Rotaractors were annual children's Christmas parties. We were in charge of the National Carnival Princess Show. We had an Adopt an Elderly program. We dealt with street feeding of the homeless, tree plantings, painting of schools, donations in various rural communities to the less fortunate, and professional development sessions, which would be training, conferences, seminars. So supporting the youth program could be a good starting point for persons looking for interesting HPL projects to get involved in. And this is just symbolic of one of the winners of our show, which is really at the level of an annual event. So supporting the young persons to plan, organize, stage, and implement a contest, a national princess contest as part of the Carnival program. My fellow panelists have dealt a lot in a lot of the details, so I won't repeat it, but just to say, in my own journey, what really thrills me about this new alliance is the fact that there's an opportunity to serve and collaborate at a grassroots level, club to club. So we can have activities as we're doing today at a district level, even at a division or area level, but we can also touch lives by working club to club and supporting our local communities on a grassroots level. And for me, in my personal journey, this is the part of the alliance that really, really captures my enthusiasm. I will not speak too much about the educational programs because I think the speakers before me may have mentioned it, but in case we need some reinforcement, there are also opportunities to train young persons either through Rotaract or Interact, or collaborating with Rotarians in some of their own training programs. And there is a program which Toastmasters and Rotary has collaborated to establish for Rotaractors and Rotarians, which is self-directed. So maybe in that program, there's not much room for us to possibly get involved, but we can support some of the trainings that they do for the young persons or some of the trainings that Rotary itself put on for its leaders. There are quite a few opportunities at conferences, seminars to support their training sessions. One of the benefits I gained from this alliance, as Elizabeth mentioned before, was the establishment of a roundtable series show. And the concept is that we have a series of 6 talks around one particular theme. So our first series is the response to COVID, looking at different subsectors. So we have the first show, we looked at healthcarers, then we looked at youth leaders. We dealt just the last month with arts and culture. Our upcoming show in September is going to focus on the environment. Then we look at travel and tourism, and we end with new ways of working. And this would bring us full circle for our first series. Then in our second series, we are thinking about looking much closer inward into how we can strengthen the collaboration between Rotary and Toastmasters and support the district in its initiatives. So this is an example of what we look like once a month on Zoom with Rotarians and Toastmasters on the same platform, with Toastmasters members being the ones, because of our speaking skills, actually hosting the show, organizing, taking on roles as Zoom masters. Well, we don't have our counter. The Toastmaster in me is coming out here. We have timers, and we do all the correspondence before. The Rotarians, because of their expertise and their extensive networks, tend to really contribute most of the speakers, although we do contribute ourselves as Toastmasters. But this is typical of what we look like once a month, with a mixture of Rotarians and Toastmasters on one platform discussing issues of importance to the community. So I hope by sharing with you my own journey and making it a little bit more personal, you would find or understand possible opportunities that you too can think at a local level, area level, district level of collaborating with the Rotarians in your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Violet. Would you like to unshare, please?
Yes, I'm trying to get rid of the slides.
Thank you. Our fourth speaker is David Jones. I heard David when I attended the Rotary International Convention back in June. And I have to say, David, your speech was one of the most moving and inspirational I have heard. And I tracked you down immediately because I thought we want to hear more from this Toastmaster Rotarian. David joined Rotary in 2012 and you're the president-elect for 2021. David joined Toastmasters in 2011. And I don't know, I circulated the article, but there was a fascinating article in the August issue of Rotary Voices that David wrote. And the title was Finding My Life's Meaning in Rotary and Toastmasters. I think we have as I said, inspirational story to come. So David, I won't say anymore, I'll just turn over to you and invite you to tell us your unique perspective on your Rotary and Toastmaster journey. So over to you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Welcome, fellow Rotarians, Toastmasters, and anybody else who happens to join this presentation. Every life has significant moments, and for me, 3 dates stand out. On September 29th, 1979, I married Judy Marks. Beautiful, brilliant, great compassion, and many talents. She was my best friend and lover. Every time I thought of Judy, I'd be filled with a deep inner joy and a profound belief that I was the luckiest man on the face of the earth. Every day, our love grew deeper. We had 4 children together. Our first was Anne. Then we had identical twin sons, Michael and Jeffrey. And our last was the sweetest little girl you'd ever want to meet, Laura. Besides earning master's degrees in sociology and public administration, raising 4 children, Judy became an ordained minister and in charge of the children's ministry program at our church. And that became her dream job. Her other talents included cooking, gardening, painting, and anything artistic. There's a picture of my wife, Judy. On August 7th, 2008, Laura was driving with her mother back from a college visit. Laura had her driver's license for 7 months at a time. There was a car coming the other way. It didn't stay on their side of the road. My wife was killed instantly in a car crash. I went from one day feeling like the happiest man on the face of the earth to the next day writing an obituary, picking out a casket, deciding where she was going to be buried. It had a profound effect on our family and our whole community. Turned out the other driver was over twice the limit on alcohol and 10 times the limit on cocaine that's considered to be under the influence in the state of Ohio. My life was changed in the blink of an eye. It was never the same. A year later, when Laura finally decided which college she was going to go to and left, it was me alone in a 5-bedroom house. And I had to decide whether to curl up in a ball and die or keep on going. I decided to keep on going. And so one of the things that I decided to do was talk to DUI drivers and convince them not to do it again. I shared Judy's story and used it over and over to try to make a difference, to prevent lives being lost from other people. A year later, I joined Toastmasters. And I did that just to become as effective as I could possibly be in preventing drunk driving. 3 years after Judy died, in October 30th, 2011, I married Diane Kuntz. She was a widow who lost her husband to a brain aneurysm 2 months after I lost Judy. Diane is also beautiful, brilliant, and a superb communicator. I moved into her house and joined Tri-Village Rotary in order to make more friends in my new community. They're a great group of people, and I love the opportunities to volunteer, to be part of a bigger movement, and just make a difference in the world. Toastmasters is almost as old as Rotary and provides a safe place to practice speaking and get suggestions on improvements, and we clap for everybody. Toastmaster also trains people to become leaders. You have all these roles in your club. Over the years, I've done every role multiple times, and I've held nearly every officer role in our club, all that provide great training for Rotary. At this point, most of you know about Rotary, helping to serve others both locally and international. And I feel my Toastmaster training helped me in my Rotary Club as I took the role of Sergeant at Arms, Vice President, and next year, now I'm President-elect. One of the things that I got interested in Toastmasters was working on my high performance leadership project in order to achieve my DTM. I didn't just want to do any project, so I found a special project that had meaning for me. I decided to do a project to provide water for the village of Nambasa in Uganda. It's in the eastern part of Uganda, near the border with Kenya in Mount Elgin. You can see our arrival here in the village. I did this because a close friend of mine at my church, Linda McKenna, had been going to this village for the last 12 years and had sort of adopted this village. While we're there, we did put in one pump, and I have the bottle of water right here that I held in my hand there that I filled up and brought back with me. We provided 30 days worth of food to over 110 families. And all the children that are being adopted, we went ahead, or sponsored, we went ahead and visited them. While I was there, I also used Toastmasters to help with my trip there. I did a leadership seminar, and during that time, very interesting, they said that the problem they had the most was trying to find new leaders. So after that, I went ahead and did the Speechcraft program with that, and that was extremely successful. So you can blend Toastmasters and Rotary together. This has just brought so much meaning and joy for me, and hopefully it can do the same for you. Thank you very much.
So over to you now, Steve, as chat monitor to ask the panel the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. And if I could ask all of our panelists, please, to turn your cameras back on again, turn your microphones back on when you're speaking, so if we can get Terry, Ted, Violet, and David back. Firstly, thank you to all of our panelists for those excellent speeches, introductions, and helping us understand your own personal stories and your experiences of Toastmasters and Rotary together.
Sorry, Steve, I can't turn, it says the host has to open up my camera.
Okay.
Same for me.
Geroid, with your magic wand, if you could help David and Violet with that would help us. Thank you. And while that's happening, thank you for your help. And also thank you to all of our attendees for the questions that we've received so far. I would ask of our attendees, please continue to send questions in through the Q&A. What I would like to do now is ask some of these questions to our attendees, to our panelists. I mentioned earlier, I'll direct them at different people based on what you've said so far. And I'd like to start, Terry, with a question for you, because we had a question from Bryce from Nigeria and also Sarinka asking if it's possible to forge an alliance between Rotary and Toastmasters without asking members to join both clubs. And Terry, you talked about starting a Toastmasters club. So can you speak a little about that experience?
Yes, thank you. We started with 25 chartered members that were all Rotarians when we formed the Portland Rotary Toastmaster Group. However, as we started moving along and evolving as a club, other people that we were talking to are non-Rotarians who joined our Toastmaster group. Some of those people have stayed in Toastmasters, and some of those that have stayed in Toastmasters have also become Rotarians, but we don't put any pressure on anyone to become a Rotarian, because we're really functioning as a Toastmaster club, even though it's a Rotary Toastmaster club. And today, 60% of the Portland Rotary Toastmasters are Rotarians, and the other 40% are non-Rotarian Toastmasters. We welcome everyone.
That's very helpful. Thank you very much, Terry. And my next question actually is for David here, and we're interested in how the leadership development structure of Toastmasters and Rotary compares with each other. You talked about leadership development and some of the skills that you've learned there. So could you talk a little bit about that and your experience, please?
Sure. You know, obviously Toastmasters has training twice a year for all the different officer roles within the club, and going to that and sharing with all the other people out there, really, I mean, the more you do it, the better you get. And so by sharing other people's stories, you also then can expand upon that in even more ways because you're getting the experiences of others. Rotary does something similar where you can get together. I think our district is only once a year getting together as a group. It's similar, but it's a little bit different. And I think just by, you know, the officer roles are slightly different between the two organizations. So in Toastmasters, you have 3 different vice presidents, where in Rotary, you just have 1 president. On other roles, it's really interesting. Sergeant at Arms role is the one that's the most interesting to me because I've done that in both clubs. And you get to pay a much bigger part of the meeting as being a Sergeant at Arms in the Rotary clubs. And just how it develops and how it, the rapport that you get is really interesting. And I think that's one where we could feed sort of back towards Toastmasters in helping build that position up a little bit more. But there's just synergies between both organizations that I just really enjoy.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you. My next question actually is to Violet, and it is how the prospective alliances between Rotary and Toastmasters can work. You talked about some of the programs that you've done between the 2 clubs. So how do you go about organizing, bringing the leadership of both organizations together in support of that program?
In my experience, luckily for me, I had a foot in both camps and I had established networks. But I do know, as we all know, how friendly we are as Toastmasters, and Rotarians are just as friendly. So it's a matter of reaching out to the local Rotarians in your area and making that connection. One of the easy ways to do it is to get invited or to request an invitation to speak at a Rotary meeting. And there are always opportunities, either at breakfast, lunch meetings, to have a guest address the club. And that's one way you could get your feet in, build that relationship, and establish a network, and then establish a collaboration.
Thank you, Violet. I think that's very helpful. And I might come back to you on this topic in a moment, actually, because I've got to follow up on that. But Ted, I've got a question for you, if I may. You mentioned both organizations putting great store in training and celebrating. So can you tell us a little about your experience in both organizations and how that works?
Well, it's certainly more pronounced in Toastmasters because we believe in recognition. And my own feeling is, I think I have several years of service to prove it, that the only reward we have in voluntary organizations is, first of all, the personal satisfaction of doing something for somebody else. But secondly, being recognized for your efforts. And in Toastmasters, that's very big. We have Hall of Fame for the successful districts. We have Hall of Fame for the successful locals. So recognition is very big. I believe that Rotary can do more in that respect, in the sense that their celebrations are at district level are very low key and matter of fact. So when you think about it, if you do a good job, as you are doing today and all your cohorts, then we need to tell you that you're doing a good job and not just let you leave without recognition. So yes, recognition rocks is my favorite phrase.
I love that phrase. Thank you, Ted. So related to that then, but my next question, actually back to Terry, if I may. You started with Rotary and then moved to creating the Toastmasters Club. But I'm wondering recently, what communications from a Rotary perspective have there been around the Toastmasters Alliance and how to make the best use of that?
Steve, would you repeat the last part of that question, please?
Sorry, my question was from a Rotary perspective. I know from personal experience as a member of Toastmasters, but not of Rotary, I've heard about the Rotary Alliance. But
Yes.
I'm wondering the other way around. How have Rotary heard about the Toastmasters Alliance and how to get the most out of it?
I'm having some meetings with some district governors in Rotary and district governor-elects. And a lot of people right now are wondering what the Alliance means. What are we to do? I think Rotary and Toastmasters have a really good program. I've seen the slide deck and the benefits, but what we're looking for now is what's the implementation model?
Mm-hmm.
We're doing the Alliance on our own with our 40-some Rotarian Toastmasters groups, and we get 25 to 35 people. Elizabeth was there the other day and there was 28 people were in the Zoom Toastmaster meeting. So we're really doing it on our own, but now we want to talk to our district governors at Rotary on how we can expand it. We need an implementation plan.
No, Terry, thank you, because I think that's helpful. And I think, as Violet said, just getting started by reaching out to local clubs is the best way of going. And
Can I come in, Steve?
Please do.
Yeah, at least for the benefit of our audience. In D71, we have 2 members on the DLT team in the person of Daniel Sanders and Elizabeth, our organizer for tonight, who are really spearheading the initiative, and we are reaching out. We've had some meetings and we're reaching out to Rotary. So very soon, we ourselves here in D71 will be sharing much more information on the way forward for our district.
Thank you, Violet. That's, I'm sure, helpful for all of our attendees, for all of us to know. I've got a question. David, please go ahead.
Mention, they actually created a new position for District 40 as basically a coordinator between Toastmaster and Rotary, which I've been given. And been trying to figure out how to go about this. One of the difficulties is that many of our Rotary clubs in our rural areas that tend to have strong Rotary clubs, but don't have any Toastmaster clubs nearby, where if they are, they're a substantial distance. And so just trying to figure out how to link various clubs together is proving a bit of a challenge, but that's what we're sort of working on and trying to get some people to visit each other's clubs and to provide some synergy there for when it can happen.
I'd like to follow up on that too, please, for a few words. If you hark back to what I said in my talk, this I think is a ground up venture rather than a top down venture. Different clubs will have different ways of reaching out and making contact with the neighboring club, whether it be Toastmasters or Rotary. And they'll have so many different ways of doing that. And it'll develop, I think, organically over time. We can wait for the big plan to come down, but I don't think it'll deviate too much from what I said, which is just participate, invite, discuss, meet, chat at ground level. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Ted. And actually, I have another question for anyone on the panel who knows about this topic. Is there going to be any sort of financial assistance in terms of people who are members of both Rotary and Toastmasters from a dues perspective? Does anyone know anything about that?
I'm not sure. Financial assistance in terms of?
I think that was just one of the questions about, obviously, people need to pay dues to both organizations. Presumably, is there a benefit to being a member of both? I personally haven't read anything about it, so.
Well, I cannot speak to the headquarters and if there are any discounts being applied for having dual memberships. But as far as I know, the organizations are still independent organizations and you'd have to comply to both independently. But the collaboration really, the alliance is really in terms of developing our leadership skills, making use of our speaking skills to benefit Rotarians, as for example, in the model that I gave with our roundtable show, where the Toastmasters people are the members, are the ones actually leading the discussions, hosting the show, and the Rotarians, through their humanitarian service, we provide a platform. So I don't think the head office have gone beyond that yet.
Thank you. No, I think It's great to have that perspective. Thank you. Well, I see, unfortunately, we're out of time for more questions. So once again, thank you to all of our panelists for answering the questions so fully and giving us lots of useful information. And thank you to our attendees for sending them in. I now have the pleasure of handing over to Daniel Sanders, our Programme Quality Director, for his closing thoughts. So over to you, Daniel.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And I'd really like to really extend my thanks, first of all, to all of our attendees that have attended from far and wide. In particular, I'd like to recognise Lynn Shaftakola, my opposite number in Southeast Europe, who we've had a recent brainstorming session with over the Rotary Alliance. I'd like to thank individually each of our panellists, Terry Beard, David Jones, Ted Corcoran, Violet Cuffy. I think it's been a very stimulating discussion. Hold these discussions without sincere thanks to the Zoom team. I think I've counted 8 members supporting us with the Zoom technology platform. We have Steve Campion, our chat monitor. We have Gera Murphy as our Zoom host. Sarinka Janga is out there with questions and answers. We have Gaia, our energetic hostess. We have Jenny Chalmers in backup. We have Liz Welch on the timekeeping. And we have Sue Barnett out there. So fantastic work. Welcome the audience on board, and we couldn't do anything of this without the Zoom crew to support us. And some of the ideas that I picked up, they're very exciting. Being able to collaborate with Rotary through the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, possibly to collaborate with them on educational programs and the pets for them. And also we could possibly offer jointly developed workshops at one of our District 71 events. So whilst I take Ted's point that collaboration grows from the ground up, I think helping to provide recognition items and helping to provide a bit of structure and guidance, helping to provide educational materials to help support collaborative projects that go forward. So at this point, I'd now like to hand back to, is it Elizabeth Jordan, to wrap up and close?
Yes, I need a host to turn my video on, please. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you to, can I ask everyone to turn their videos on, because we can now all, we're wrapping up, so everyone can turn their videos on. So all it remains for me to do is to add to Daniel's word of thanks, with a special thanks for panelists. I have to say, when I wrote to you and invited you to come, no one hesitated. Everyone was very, very keen, and you did us proud tonight. I think there have been several questions about the Alliance. What should we do? How should we start? And what's been fantastic is you've left us with a wealth of ideas, either from, as Ted suggested, from the ground up. David, you've shown us, people have often asked, well, you know, what is the benefit? You have given us so many ideas. I mean, for example, the HPL projects, DTM projects. Who would have thought that Toastmasters and Rotary would lead you all the way to work in Uganda? I mean, such service to self, service to others, service above self and service to others. And Terry, I wrote this phrase down the first time you said it, and I'll write it down again, because you've really showed us what Toastmasters is about, is helping people. Their service is helping people to find their voices. And what greater gift can you give a person than to allow them to do that? So I thank you all for coming. I definitely will be keeping in touch. I'm sure we'd love to have you back in D71 again as we progress, we go on this journey of the Alliance. So thank you very much again. Thanks to all the visitors who have joined us, and extra special thanks to the Zoom team. We've been working for days to get this right, and it's gone flawlessly, seamlessly. I'm so proud of everyone. So thanks to everyone, and good evening, good morning, or good afternoon. to everyone. Thank you. And oh, sorry, but can we just unmute and give everyone a round of applause? I forgot that bit. Those of us who can unmute, give our speakers a hearty round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you, panelists. Okay, and we're bang on time, Sunday evening, so we've got time to go and enjoy the rest of our days. So thank you very much, everyone. That's the formal close of the event. Thank you.